Good morning, everybody. Honorable Minister of Environment and Urbanization, Mr. Mehmet Özhaseki, dear Director of the CFCU, Mr. Mehmet Selim Üzlü, representatives of stakeholder institutions, dear ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good night to everybody. It is my pleasure to be here today to address the opening ceremony of the iklimIN project of the Ministry of Environment and Urbanization. I am not going to elaborate here on the technical details of the project, would not like to take too much of your time, rather leave it to the specialists. But let me take this opportunity to emphasize that climate change has consequences for our prosperity and security. We, as the European Union, are dealing with this problem by setting ambitious long-term goals and establishing strong domestic climate action legislation. As a result of this ambitious climate action framework, the EU achieved a reduction of greenhouse gases by 23%, while its GDP grew 46% between 1990 and 2014. This shows that climate action and investing in cleaner technologies are not just good for the climate, but also create opportunities for boosting the economy and jobs. Moreover, early action and preparedness for the impacts of climate change makes absolute sense. For instance, every euro spent on flood protection could save 6 euros in damage costs, according to estimates. Honorable guests, indeed, the climate change challenge evolves globally, and so is the EU climate action policy. After adoption of the Paris Climate Agreement in 2015, the EU started immediately to align its climate legislation to the requirements of the new global agreement and ratified it on October 5, 2016. As a reaction to the growing risks of climate change, the EU's 2016 global strategy addresses climate change as one of the potential conflict areas. The strategy states that climate change and environmental degradation exacerbate potential conflict in light of their impact on desertification and degradation and water and food scarcity. The strategy considers climate change to be a threat multiplier that catalyzes water and food scarcity, pandemics and displacement, and considers it as a foreign and security policy matter. Despite geopolitical uncertainties, the world can continue to count on Europe for global leadership in the fight against climate change. Europe will lead through ambitious climate policies and through continued support to the poor and vulnerable. The EU will continue working with its international partners and remains determined to keep up the momentum and global ownership of the Paris Agreement. Dear guests, the European Union and Turkey share the same geography and face similar climate challenges, of which we have heard from previous orators. The southern part of the EU, namely the Mediterranean region, is one of the most vulnerable regions in the world in terms of the impacts of climate change. The fact that we share challenges, together with the dedication of the EU to combating climate change, has led also to a growing cooperation on climate change between the European Union and Turkey. We successfully closed the project on aligning the greenhouse gas monitoring mechanism decision of the Ministry of Environment and Urbanization in April this year. With respect to adaptation, we are working with the Ministry of Food, Agriculture and Livestock on ecosystem-based adaptation in steppe ecosystems. Most importantly, we signed 4 technical assistance projects, which this one is part of, and 38 grant projects on climate change in May 2017, on strengthening analytical capacity for low-carbon development planning, strengthening land use change and forestry sector, eliminating F-gases, and capacity building at grassroots and municipal level through a grants program. The total volume of these recently signed contracts is almost 14 million euros. We believe that all these projects, admittedly with modest budgets, will significantly contribute to the capacity of Turkey to align its climate change policy with EU climate legislation, as well as to efficiently respond to its climate-related challenges. Our cooperation on climate change shall be stronger during the second phase of the Instrument for Pre-Accession Assistance, IPA II, that covers the period 2014-2020. Esteemed guests, before ending my speech, I would like to emphasize that the European Union is looking forward to the ratification of the Paris Climate Change Agreement by the Turkish Parliament, and that we are ready to further cooperate with Turkey in order to increase the ambition level of climate action here. I would like to wish success in advance to the Ministry of Environment and Urbanization and the Consortium for a successful project implementation. Let me conclude my remarks by quoting from one of the most distinguished scientists ever, Einstein. He said that we cannot solve our problems with the same level of thinking that created them. For us to be able to solve the new and emerging risks of climate change that threaten our well-being, we need to use new perspectives and business models to cope with these risks and to ensure greener economies and climate-resilient societies. But, most importantly, we need to work in solidarity as nations, since all of us are in the same boat. Çok teşekkürler. Thank you very much.